already know what it is. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here, for watching the videos, for coming back onto the channel. Before we even get into it, I just want to say thank you. And I did. So let's go, let's go ahead and begin a full album listen. My headphones are in the wrong thing. I couldn't hear myself. Let's go ahead and begin a full album listen. Speaking in Tongues by Talking Heads, their 5th studio album released 1983. It is time to get into this album. It's been a while since we listened to Talking Heads with their album Remain in Light, which it took me a while to kind of get used to. It took me a little bit to warm up to it, but once I warmed up to it, that's been an album. That's what I call a barbecue album. I put that album on when the very few times that I barbecue. Anyways, this album, the band has been, recommending for me to come back and return to. So today we're going to do that with this full album listen, which I hope you guys are prepared for. So this album has been recommended to me by quite a lot of people, but I'll list as many as I can. Matt John, Epolite 426, Pedro G, David Chaplain, David Thibodeau, Chic, your dingus, James Warner, Matro B. New, Pedro G, Harry Polamaki, Benoit Desmarais, AK, I think that you recommended this as well. And it's going to go on and on and on. Ariel Carante, Del Little. It goes on. I think, Jacob, you recommended this, and perhaps I just need myself. Anyways. Yeah, so grab a drink, grab something to eat, grab a snack. We're going to sit down, listen to this thing through. Of course, it's going to be edited here on YouTube, but you can, of course, watch it for free over on Patreon. It's just a click away over there. And if you've ever confused why you editing the video on YouTube and putting the link on Patreon, it's because it only takes one song out of a whole album, and sometimes it does happen for the whole thing to be blocked. And I am trying to do all that work afterwards. It takes too long for me to sit there and edit everything. I'm just getting it done out the way while still making it, of course, freely available for everybody. Also, before we get into it, I just want to say I am a little sick. My throat is not on fire right now, but there's some searing coals in there. Last night it was on fire. So if my voice is not as great, if I'm not as loud, it's not because I'm unenthusiastic. It's just because my throat is a little hot right now. So anyways, I'm excited to get into the album. This is the album, I believe, after Remain in Light. So I'm curious to hear what's changed, what stayed the same, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and begin the album listen with the first track, which is Burning Down the House. Let's go. It's coming. Starts out low, I guess. They maintain that funk. Some hollow winds of synth now. I mean, what an opener track, Burning Down the House. The house wasn't even built. The album has barely begun, and it's already burned down at this point. So immediately we're getting like a little bit more of a more synth-led Talking Heads at this point, just a little bit after Remain in Light, which I think is kind of an interesting step in a different direction. I really like that sound. They immediately come in very hot. Burn sounds just as like outspoken and excited as he always has, especially when the chorus and that repeated line, burning down the house. Just the way that the band gets very quickly but still lightly aggressive in that moment. You hear the guitar, like that's a horrible way of describing it. And then that gentle synth bass that's pulsing. Can I talk about the drummer though? That's gonna be Chris Franz on drums here, and then Steve Scales on percussion. The rhythmic section of this track, I think, I don't know, maybe not, but you got to pay some attention to that because the drums sound absolutely wonderful. Production is great. Listening to the toms, yeah, they have a little bit of that 80s sound in it, which I can sometimes take it or leave it. Here, I'm definitely taking it because that sounded wonderful. The way that everything is laid on top of each other, I have to give great credit to the production on that. Specifically, yeah, the whole song, but really specifically looking at the drums and the percussion, it just sounded very crisp, very round, very it sounded like you were in the midst of the drum set and in the midst of the party that's going on in here. I like how we got two synth-led kind of moments there. The first being like kind of scratchy, dissonant, a little bit electric, right? That was fun. But then that last part, as the band kind of came to a cool down, kind of gave us a more hollow and glassy synth, which kind of quieted everything down. The drums were really giving a lot more room there, kind of producing this airy ambience to everything. That was a really nice come down. It felt like the sprinkler system had come on as the house was literally burning down, and the sprinkler system was that hollow synth at the end, kind of, you know, putting out the flames of the first track of this album. I thought that was incredibly pleasing to listen to. The lyrics on here: watch out, you might get what you're after. Cool, baby, strange but not a stranger. I'm an ordinary guy burning down the house. Hold tight, wait till the party's over. Hold tight, we're in for nasty weather. There has got to be a way, burning down the house. Here's your ticket, pack your bag, it's time for jumping overboard. The transportation is here, close enough but not too far. Maybe you know where you are, fighting fire with fire. So I'm getting the idea of some sort of change happening in here. I don't know if it's a good change or a bad change. They, you know, talk about a journey. Here's your ticket, pack your bag. It's time to move forward, jumping overboard. So perhaps the music will be created in some sort of excess that wasn't done in the previous albums or music. I don't know. I'm taking kind of a leap of faith here, going overboard with the band and the meaning of the lyrics here. All wet here, you might need a raincoat. Shake down dreams walking in broad daylight. 365 degrees, like one for every day of the year. Burning down the house, it was once upon a place. Sometimes I listen to myself, gonna come in first place. People on their way to work say, baby, what did you expect? Gonna burst into flame. I have no idea what this is about, so let's go ahead and let's see if we can find the meaning or anything like that. It says that Chris France said the title of the song came from a chant screamed by the audience during a Parliament Funkadelic concert. Okay, so I guess that's where Burning Down the House came from. Okay. But I want to know what it's about. Let's see. It says here, the initial lyrics were considerably different. In an interview, David Byrne played excerpts of early work tapes showing how the song had evolved from an instrumental jam. Once the whole band had to rework the groove into something resembling a final recording, Byrne began chanting and singing nonsense syllables over the music until he arrived at phrasing that fit the rhythms. Okay, so we've heard that technique used many times before, and I mean, honestly, when you're, I would assume, you know, thinking a band in the beginning of making a song, you probably just kind of like mouth words over, or, you know, produce syllables and noises before you actually put words into the melodies and the rhythms and all that kind of stuff. But perhaps we kind of kept those. According to Byrne, phrases that he tried but ultimately did not use in the song included, I have another body, pick it up by the handle, you travel with the double, and I'm still under construction. So, Burning Down the House just rhythmically fit into the lyrical landscape, I guess you could say, here on the album. So, let's move ourselves into the next track, which has a very funny name, Making Flippy Floppy. Which I just gotta say, sounds like a euphemism. Let me just take a sip. Burning down my throat. Alright, let's move on to the next track. Here we go.
Everybody, get in. No one makes a monkey out of me.
It's so groovy.
We lie on our backs. We're singing in the darkness. Making flippy floppy. Trying to do my
There it is. Name drop. There's one thing to say. Talking Heads has got that funk. They got that disease. They got that bug. That just makes you swing. You are listening to this, and a part of you, it may not be the part you want, but at least your toes are a tapping, your foot is a grooving, your hips are a swaying. Something's happening right now. I feel it. You feel it. We feel it. You are listening to Tina's bass. Just bump, 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 wow. Just that fat pop at the top, and then the slide to the bottom puts you right back on Soul Train, right? And then, like, Talking Heads has this formula. And I don't want to speak prematurely because I only heard one album and, of course, a few songs here and there, besides what we're listening to now. But they have that insane groove, and then they just, you know, Byrne comes on top of that with kind of his manic shouting, if you will, and whatever's going on. And then they always get that one moment in the music for, like, someone to have a showcase, that very drony guitar. At least that's what I thought it was, because I'm looking at the track list, the personnel, and I'm completely wrong, as oft I am. It wasn't drony guitar that was sliding up and down there in the middle and then near the end. That was actually going to be El Shakar on the violin. Who would have thought? Listen, how great is it when these musicians from different places like pop in for a little piece here and there? a little solo, a little moment, and then they pop back out. Because he's only featured on this track. That's just great that they got him in there to do that because he sounded absolutely wonderful. This is a dance floor track. I'm just picturing being on the dance floor, listening to this. It's funky, it's groovy, it's dancey, but it has a message. I may not know what the message is, making flippy floppy, but there's a message in there. Everybody get in line. Nothing can come between us. Nothing gets you down. Nothing strikes your fancy. Nothing turns you on. Somebody is waiting in the hallways. Somebody is falling down the stairs. Set someone free. Break someone's heart. Stand up. Help us out. Everything is divided. Nothing is complete. Everything looks impressive. Do not be deceived. You don't have to wait for more instructions. No one makes a monkey out of me. We lie on our backs, feet in the air. Rest and relaxation rocket to my brain. I still don't... Maybe I should stop trying to interpret what's happening in here. Making flippy floppy, like I said, is kind of like, it sounds like a euphemism, at least to me, unless we're talking about Floppy Bird. He's saying snap into position, bounce till you ache. You step out of line and you end up in jail. Bring me a doctor, I have a hole in my head, but they are just people and I'm not afraid. You know what? I'm going to click on the interpretation here to see if someone else has an idea that I may be missing here. It says, although the world seems integrated, wholesome, and magnificent, it is a facade for the corrupt, segregated world we live in. Things are not necessarily what they seem. Okay. You must conform or you will end up behind bars. Okay. Snap into position, bounce till you ache. The proverbial dancing monkey. Stay in line. Don't be too out of the ordinary, or this deviation will result in your removal from society. Okay. See, sometimes I can't come up with like an idea or an interpretation. A lot of times I can, even if it's completely wrong. I can usually at least get something. Here, I wasn't getting it. But you know what? That makes a lot of sense now, looking into the lyrics here. Looking at the information here about the track, it says, despite some seemingly frivolous turns of phrases, the wariness of the frightening world that we have come to expect talking heads to report on has not been forgotten. Paints human interaction stripped of all its nuance as being basically programmed from birth. The song suggests, to use an oxymoron, that we are naturally mechanical. That's good. That's good. Hey, I like that. I like that a lot. Let's move ourselves on into the next track here on the album, which is... You hear that? That's thunder. Listen, it happens occasionally. Thunder happens, you know that there's lightning around. That means there's a storm brewing. If power goes out, I'm going to have to do an edit. But for now, we're good to go. So let's move on to Girlfriend is Better. Little spacey star synth on the side. So sweet. Okay, Girlfriend really steps up a lot of that synth work in there. There are sounds in here that I don't know exactly what's going on. Once again, it's wrapped in this groovy, delicious package, right? No doubt. I really like Burns' performance in this one, by the way. Like, I can't really explain any differently what he's doing here than in any other song where we've heard, but I just really like what he's delivering. Okay, that aside, first of all, deep wobble. Wobble, 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 wobble. Just that deep wobble on the bass, on that synth, on that pulse is really, really nice. I like how it's so deep, right? And then we get even deeper. Later on, we have what I think is guitar that's creating in that middle passage around 2 minutes and, 50 seconds or so. I think that's guitar doing some of the work in there. But I'm going to say that it's either guitar through like a synth, or there's some synth percussion used in certain parts, because some moments sound like a deep in the back of the tunnel, like, pipes being hit, or like glass pipes being, played, but it sounds like it's filtered through synths and stuff. I don't know, there's some really interesting sound textures going on, and like I said, I really can't even begin to tell you exactly how that's being done or what's being played, but I think it's might be everything. It's just percussion, guitar, and synth, but they're all being played through some sort of synth. I really don't know. But then you have those moments in the music where it breaks it down, which we heard in the last track too. Like when he says, "Is it?" and then the music drops out basically just to that drum beat, and then everyone, well, not everyone, but the synth and I can't remember the other sound in there. I think it was that wobble, that kind of bass wobble. They both get like little moments to kind of play in there. You have some scratchy sound effects. That's what I keep on mentioning. They have that groove, but then they dance with dissonance, which is really, really a great kind of style, really. And they have style in spades. Who took the money? Who took the money away? It's always showtime here at the edge of the stage. Wake up and wonder, what was the place, what was the name? We want to wait, but here we go again. So I'm just taking like, you know, you're at the edge of the stage, you're always on stage. Could be, of course, autobiographical, or it could be just a reference to something, but you're always on stage performing. Never time to recollect, to gather your thoughts. You know, well, what happened? I don't know. We're back on stage. I take over slowly, but doesn't last very long. No need to worry, everything's under control. OUT, but no hard feelings. What do you know? Take you away. We're being taken for a ride again. We're being taken advantage of again. I got a girlfriend that's better than that. She has the smoke in her eyes. She's coming up, going right through my heart. She's going to give me a surprise. I think it's right, better than this. I think you can, if you like. I got a girlfriend with bows in her hair, and nothing is better than that. But then he questions, is it? So, like, he thinks he has everything he wants. He thinks he has the best, but at the same time, he kind of questions himself. He says, wait, do I? Nothing is better than that. Are you sure? Is it? So girlfriend is better is really kind of a question more than a statement. Or he says it, but then he kind of questions himself like, wait, do I have everything that I want? Somebody calls you, but you cannot hear. Get closer to be far away. And only one look, and that's all that it takes. Maybe that's all that we need. All that it takes. I'll bet it's right. I got a girlfriend, blah, 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 blah. And she goes wherever she likes. There she goes. So maybe the things that he holds close to him, that he values and that he trusts, maybe always escape him as well. I also see that this track peaked at number 21 in New Zealand and number 59 Australia and 99 in the UK. Let's move on into the next track here, which is going to be Slippery People. I guess you could say a colony of slippermen. Let's go. That groove don't be slipping though. I love the backing vocals here. I really like that little calm piano just next to this. Just kind of like a cute aside. And what can you say? Listen, I hope that you're having a good time listening to this. I hope that you're like in your kitchen, or you may be lying in bed, but like I said, something's moving. I don't know what it is when you're listening to this album, but something's moving in here. So I love that transition from the verse into the chorus. Burn kind of provides a little bit of a lead in, and then all the harmonies come in. I love that group of harmonies that takes that chorus just to another bigger and brighter level. Like they just push it along. The call and response in there is really nice as well. It just sounds really nice having that group effort vocally. It brings a different kind of nuance into the music, and it really does have a certain power that's involved there. But let's talk about all these electronic sounds that are being brought in here. So first of all, in the first break, which we get into, to me it's almost like the instruments create this glassy body of water. And then you have all these sounds that are kind of dipping their toes into the pool and playing in there. So like, for example, I really like how in that first break, you had a little sprinkling of just straight up piano back there. Like just this nice little sprinkle, very calm motions, just da-ding, da-ding, just like little bits, right? But that was kind of refreshing. After all the synth work we've heard, the heavy bass, like the groove and everything like that, it was kind of nice to have like just calm piano, just kind of lightly being played there, intermittently there in the music. Then, that thunder is loud if you guys hear that. Then you have what I would like, if I didn't look at the personal and see that this is not here, this is what I would think it was. It sounds like you got someone on a turntable scratching, because you hear that like that chirping sound. But I'm just going to take a stab and say that's probably someone on guitar. There's so many people playing guitar on this album, I can't tell you who it could be. Could be Byrne, could be Jerry Harrison, could be Tina Weymouth, because she plays guitar apparently somewhere in here. Could be Alex Ware. It could be any of them. But whoever's doing that, I think that that's a really neat sound to, once again, toss into the pool, see if it floats, see if it sinks. But either way, it adds a certain depth and color into the music there. once again, it's in those breaks that it provides a little bit of that unique characteristic about the band, right? We already hear that funk, we already hear that groove. Love it, love the rhythm, gotta dance with it. But I want to hear those breaks. That's where they really sink their teeth into something a little bit different, you know? Slippery people. What about the time you were rolling over? Fall on your face, you must be having fun. Walk lightly, think of a time you'd best believe this thing is real. Put away the gun, this part is simple. Try to recognize what is in your mind. God help us to surmise. These slippery people help us understand. So I think he's talking about someone, right? He says that, what about that time you were rolling over? Falling on your face, looking like you're having fun. Slippery people. People that are falling, in a sense. Obviously, you could think literal, I guess, but figuratively. How are you falling? Are you falling on your face because of, like, drug use, alcohol use? That's like what I see, like, you know, it looks like you're having fun, but I don't think you're having fun rolling around on the ground like that. What's the matter with him? You can kind of imagine a crowd. He's all right. I see his face, the Lord won't mind. Don't play no games, he's all right. Look from the bottom to the top. Turn like a wheel, he's all right. See for yourself, the Lord won't mind. We're gonna move right now. Turn like a wheel inside a wheel. So we all have our lives, our own personal lives, our own bubble inside the grander scheme of the world. And there's a little bit of a voyeuristic kind of, like, you know, people are watching how you are, and they're going to watch how you react to things, and they're going to judge you for that. And not only are they going to judge you, but he says the Lord won't mind, so, you know, God won't mind or is judging you. I think it's kind of like something like that. I don't know. Maybe. I remember when sitting in the tub, pulled out the plug, the water was running out. Cool down, stop acting crazy, they're going to leave, and we'll be on our own. 7 times 5, they were living creatures. Watch them come to life right before your eyes. Backsliding, how do you do? These slippery people gonna see you through. So these slippery people are people that perhaps can't really take care of themselves. They kind of slip around, fall on their face. But perhaps you also can't trust them because you can't hold them. They're slippery. You know, if you try to hold a frog, it's slippery and it'll slide out your hand. I don't know why a frog was the thing I thought of with that. Anyways. Let's move on into the next track, which is also the final track on this particular side of the album, which is going to be I Get Wild / Wild Gravity. Well, let's go. I like how Burns stepped up right there, and then you also have the drums step up for a moment. Let me use an analogy to explain this track. I don't really drink much. It's not really my thing overall. Like, I like a margarita and certain things like that. But, like, you know when you don't really like liquors too much and your friend says, you have to try this whiskey. It's so smooth, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, I just don't like whiskey. It's just too strong of a taste. And then he's like, look, this is like 100-year-old, whatever, bottom of the barrel or top of the barrel, something in the barrel they use. And then he's like, here, take this shot. And you're like, fine, I'll take the shot. And then you're like, wow, that is smooth. That's basically what I feel listening to I Get Wild. It is just this smooth whiskey. It goes down easy. It doesn't really burn going down. You're like, huh. And then they're like, yeah, you've been drinking cheap whiskey. This is true whiskey. Like, that's what this feels like. This is that go down easy kind of music, right? I got to get back into the synth work, which is nice in there, but I don't want to talk about that too much. I actually just want to talk about how this sounds very reggae inspired, which I think is really neat. You know, like before with Remain in Light, we got a strong kind of Fela Kuti Afrobeat influence in there. And like now we've moved on, of course, into more synth pop territory or synth based kind of territory, new wave-ish. But then here we're getting into like a reggae tone, and they sound good at it. I like that. And once again, kind of going with the light flavor of this one, I really like how Burns sounds in here, especially the chorus. It feels really good. You get the wow, wow. You still have those little moments in there. It just adds so much personality into the music. This is a smooth drink. This is what I would say this one is. Fooled around enough with numbers, let's not be ourselves today. Is it my imagination? Is it just someone else's face? Pleasantly out of proportion, it's hard to hold onto the ground. Now I didn't come to run, and this is everything, and gravity lets you down. Gravity lets you down. Yeah, it does. And I get wild rising up. I love that. And I get wild. I just can't let go. I get wild when I get ready, and I can hardly talk. Living lights, special lights, yellow turns to blue, and I get wild, it's automatic, and I can hardly move. I think it's interesting he says, I get wild, and I can hardly move. You would think, or at least I would think, you know, if you say, I'm getting wild, like, you're moving crazy. But he says, I can hardly move. Interesting. Go ahead and pull the curtains, check to see if I'm still here. Let me lose my perspective for something worth waiting for. Somewhere in South Carolina, and gravity don't mean a thing. And all around the world, each and every one, playing with a heart of steel. I get wild, wild gravity. Maybe he wants to rise, he wants to express himself differently, but gravity, whatever that may be, metaphorically, is holding him down, keeping him down. I get up, climbing out. How did I get home? I'll survive the situation. Somebody shut the door. Beautiful, beautiful, climbing up the wall, and I get by on automatic. No surprise at all. So, I mean, he is trying to get out of somewhere, and he says, how did I get home? Like he doesn't remember the night before, or how he did arrive home. No one here can recognize you. Here is everything that you like. Feelings without explanation. Some things are hard to describe. The sound of a cigarette burning, a place where everything spins, and the sound inside your mind is playing all the time. You're playing with a heart of steel. Interesting that line that he says the sound inside your mind is playing all the time. You guys ever hear like like you have your own internal voice, or like, obviously this is gonna sound dumb, but like, you know, like we all have our own thoughts. It's the sound of our soul, the way that we think inside of our mind, and no one else can hear that or take that from us. And I think that's kind of like he's saying, like, you know, you're trying to do all these things, you're trying to move forward and progress and get up, but perhaps it's you that's holding you back, that little voice inside your head. I don't know. Let's move on though into the second side of the album, moving on into the next track, which is Swamp. And you guys know I love to do this. We're halfway through. A question for you. All you gotta do is comment with the answer, and then you can leave your normal comments, or you don't have to do that at all. Just answer my question. What is currently to your right? You look right, what's next to you? I'm looking at a little fan, it's a little Vornado. I'm looking at my electronic drum set, and I'm listening to the thunder. Anyways, let me know what's to your right in the comments down below. It's how I keep track of who's still here at this point. Anyways, Swamp is the next track, so let's go ahead and let it play. Speaking of which, I'm in Florida, which is just a giant swamp. Let's go. I like this. This is an interesting mix of genres, really, and flavors. So with Swamp, we're once again kind of getting Talking Heads like unique branding and fusion when it comes to other genres. Because hear me out, and I may be kind of off on here, but here we're kind of channeling, yeah, their sound, Talking Heads, but we're channeling like almost like a southern rock, kind of bluesy, kind of Cajun-y. I don't know, that's at least what I'm hearing. We're channeling a different kind of sound here. Instrumentally, yes, definitely with the hard stomp of the drums and the riff there, and of course the bass. But especially, we got to talk about Burns' vocal performance here, which, not that I've listened to a lot of this other artist, just a little bit, but reminds me a little bit of Tom Waits. Like you could put Tom Waits in this and it wouldn't sound weird at all. He might be a little bit more gravelly in certain ways, but Burn definitely goes for the deeper end of his voice here, which sounds like, I don't know if I've ever heard him singing like he is here. I can't think of it off the top of my head, because a lot of times he's it sounds like I'm making fun of him, but I'm not. I'm just, that's just how I picture. Like, he's out here instead of this. But here he's like, ooh, that hurt my throat. Let's not do that. He's a lot deeper, which definitely changes the whole landscape of the music, as it was already changed anyway. And once again, we're kind of dipping our toes into a different sound, a different genre for just a moment, you know? Which is really fantastic the way that they do that. I really like the chorus as well. That kind of, let's not do that. You know, I'm not going to do it lower because it hurts. And And then I don't know what he's saying in the beginning there, but he's doing some gibberish. Now let me tell you a story. The devil, he has a plan. A bag of bones in his pocket, get anything you want. No dust and no rocks, the whole thing is over. All those beauties in solid motion, all those beauties gonna swallow you up. Like, don't make a deal with the devil because you'll get swallowed up. One time too many, too far gone, or too far to go. We come to take you home. And when they split those atoms, it's hotter than the sun. Blood is a special substance, and they're gonna pray for that man. So wake up, young lovers, the whole thing is over. Watch out, touch monkeys. Okay? All that blood is going to swallow you whole. Now, he mentions splitting the atoms, bombs, okay? Then he mentions blood is a special substance, right? It is pretty special. It's kind of life-giving. Then he says, watch out, all that blood is going to swallow you whole. Like, well, actually, let's examine the line before that. Watch out, touch monkeys. Here's what I'm thinking. I think you're kind of getting two things out of this. He's saying that we as humans are monkeys. Like we don't always do what's best for all of us and humanity and stuff, right? I mean, bombs, killing each other, war, etc. Not great, right? So we're all kind of primitive to an extent. But then he also says touch monkeys. Like, make a bond with each other. Touch one another in each other's lives, you know? For as primitive as we may be and some of our instincts are, try to work together as a community. Then he says all that blood is going to swallow you whole. Because all that violence, bloodshed, etc. is going to swallow us whole and take away our humanity. That's it. And perhaps we live in a swamp of sorts. How many people do you think I am? Pretend I am somebody else. You can pretend I'm an old millionaire, a millionaire washing his hands. Rattle them bones, dreams that stick out, a medical chart on the wall. Soft violins, hands touch your throat, everyone wants to explore. Well, I think of death in there. That's what I'm thinking of. A medical chart on the wall. So if you're seeing that, you're at the doctor for something, let's just say disease. Soft violins, I'm thinking of a funeral. Hands touch your throat, getting killed. Everyone wants to explode. I'm seeing and hearing death when he says all that. Now when your hands get dirty, nobody knows you at all. Don't have a window to slip out of. Lights on, nobody home. Like, if you do these things, if you get your hands dirty involved in this, nobody knows you anymore. You lose yourself. Oh, this is a good track. This is a really good track. Deep lyrics on that one. If I'm getting it right. I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm feeling out of it. Let's move on into the next one. It is raining, by the way. Let me give you a weather update, okay? Let me pull my blinds back. It's thundering. It's lightning. It's raining. And my throat still hurts. Let's move on to the next one, which is moon rocks. Remember when you were a kid and you wanted to like get a moon rock? I was always hoping like an astronaut would like bring a bunch of rocks back and then like sell them at like a fair or something. Anyways, moon rocks. Okay, let me just put out a little tip, just a little pro, you know, just something. Don't eat rocks. Don't eat rocks. Don't chew on rocks. Don't swallow rocks. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's not good. This track I just kind of faded out. I just kind of sat back and listened to it. You just sweep into the groove. And I'm feeling like that with this whole album. This is one you just put on and you're going to catch the groove. It's infectious. At some point, you're going to be knee slapping, foot bopping, toe tapping, hip swaying. Like, at some point, you're just going to be moving with it. And you don't need to necessarily pay a ton of attention to it. Like, obviously, here in this particular setting, we're paying attention. But, like, this track, I honestly didn't, like, listen out for anything too much. I really like the guitar that was playing, especially at the end. Like, I'm listening to it, chopping it up back there, but the whole thing just kind of like came and went, I guess you could say. But I enjoyed it. You know, that's not a diss to the track itself. I'm just listening to it now, and I'm grooving with it. It feels really great to listen to. That's where I kind of feel with this track, to be honest. Nothing stood out like crazily, but it was still a proper groove, if you will. Let me pull up the lyrics here. I forgot to do that. Flying saucers, levitation. Yo, I could do that. Getting ready for heavy duty? Go on, give it a chance. Give it a chance. I saw your hair start to curl, so get up, write it down. You better wait for a while. So take your hands out of your pockets and get your face adjusted. I heard it. Somebody lied. And I'm staring out the window. Gonna let this thing continue. Protons, neutrons, I ate a rock from the moon. Don't do that. Got shocked once, shocked twice. Let's see what it can do. Like the government's experimenting on him. A man in the moon, a moon in the man. I got a rock in my throat, upside down. My tummies start to talk. If you're gonna eat a rock, yes, your tummy's probably gonna start talking to you. And I don't think it's gonna say what you want it to say. And what did it say? Gonna rock it till I shock it. Gonna kick it till I drop it. I wonder what he means when he says drop it. Love at first sight. You can kick it. You can poke it. I think you broke it. Oh, about that. So wild. I got a wild imagination talking transubstantiation. Any version will do. I got mass communication. I'm the human corporation. I ate a rock from the moon. Hey, I'm working it out. I think you are working it out. It's going to be a painful... Ooh, talk about kidney stones. That's a stone. Let's move on into the next track before the power goes out, because it's really thundering a lot out there. Let's move on into Pull Up the Roots, which I probably should do some weeding outside. Let's go. Or maybe it's someone playing on mallets. I like how we're basically getting a cowbell solo in a way. The sound at the very end I thought was Shankar coming in again, and I was like, wait, he was only credited to track 2. He can't be in this one. So I think at the end that was just guitar playing on that part. I really like how Byrne is singing here, especially the lines where he's like, I don't know what the word was, but he's like, do 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 do. Like he repeats the line. I guess I could pull it up. He repeats the line, but he pull up the roots. He's saying, that's why it stuck out, because he's saying the name of the track. Embarrassing. Pull up the roots. Pull up the roots. Like, I like how he repeats it, but he adds a different rhythm and cadence to it. I know it's a small thing, and you're like, JP, out of all the things you could have picked out in there, there's a few other things, but out of all the things, I don't know why. For some reason, just that alone made the track that much catchier. It was already catchy, but like, for some reason, the way he said the same lines, but just changed the way he said it so slightly, it was something that just stuck out to me. Obviously, I'm liking the guitar work in here, synth work in here, of course, Tina working that bass and everything. Everything else sounds wonderful. I love it. Like all these little sounds that occur, it draws me in. But for some reason, I'm listening to that. Also, I like how he holds some of his notes a little bit longer, adds a little bit of a waver in there to kind of give it a wave kind of feeling. It just works for me. It just works. Hello again. Yes, indeed, my friend. I can tell. Gonna get it together. I could be right. I could be wrong. I feel nice when I sing this song. And I don't mind. Whatever happens is fine. Baby likes to keep on playing. What do I know? Wilder than the place we live in. I'll take you there. I'll take you there. He does it there as well. I don't mind some slight disorder. Pull up the roots. Pull up the roots. And I know every living creature. Pull up the roots. Pull up the roots. What could he be talking about? And I know you. I understand what you do. Yes, indeed. I put the hat on my head. Come out of your mess. Bring yourself in. I feel nice when I start to sing and I can see it. Everyone else is like me. Towns that disappeared completely, pull up the roots. Okay, I get that. Miles and miles of endless highway, pull up the roots. Okay, so it could be talking about, what's the word? I always forget it. Urbanization, you know, cutting down the rainforest, cutting down the trees, and replacing it with highways, cities, etc., etc. Or it could be anything that has roots, right? Anything that there's something established, a home, a town of people, and being removed or whatever, pulling up those roots. Okay. Colored lights and shiny curtains, I'll take you there. Everything has been forgiven. Pull up the roots. Well, I have a good time when I go out of my mind, interesting turn of phrase, and it's a wonderful place and I can't wait to be there. And I hear beautiful sounds coming out of the ground, gonna take us a while, but we'll go hundreds of times. I think he's kind of taking a different spin on urbanization and like, you know, he's sarcastically celebrating it, right? like, you know, I'll take you there. I'll show you this place with pretty lights and everything. After, you know, homes are destroyed, people are moved from a place, but there's gonna be like this nice, I don't know, pretty place with lights that we'll go to after. And those are the beautiful sounds perhaps he hears coming out of the ground. The sound of perceived progress. Let's move on to the final track here on the album, which is This Must Be the Place, Naive Melody. Okay, let's go. I've heard this before. I've heard this track somewhere. I can't tell you where I've heard that track, but I have heard this track before, so this is not a first listen for this specific one. Was this used in like Saints Row 2 or 3? Like, I feel like this would be one of those tracks in one of those stations. I've heard this before. As soon as the bass and drum started, I was like, this sounds familiar. And listen, this is the first thought I had. I thought, are they covering a song that I've heard already? How naive of me. And then as that very famous synth line came in, those keys which are just so playful, so whimsical, I was like, oh, I've heard this before. This had to have been a single, first of all, right? Like, this had to have been a big single. If I've heard this, then it had to have charted or something. It says that, let's see, it was the second and final studio single from the album, and a live version would be released later on in 1986. I just want to see if it charted anywhere. It's ranked as one of the best songs of the 1980s by Pitchfork, 123 of top 500 greatest songs of all time. Oh, there you go. UK 51, US 62, and US Cashbox 71. There you go. So there's a chart position, because it definitely had to have charted in some capacity. All right. Besides the synth line, that, like I said, that famous keyboard, I really like how at the end of the track, it gets kind of like wonky, for lack of a better word. Like the track begins to, like, instead of tying up loose ends, it begins to feel unended. The ends begin to fray a little bit. Like, as they kind of separate and go off into their separate spaces. I just really think that's interesting. This is kind of, once again, a laid-back groove for the band to kind of finish on. And it's a very strong finish. And what I'm curious about how general audiences took this track when they first heard it. Because Byrne isn't really singing overly melodically. He's not singing with, like, this overly polished and clean, produced voice, but at the same time, he does, of course, sing, well, I guess I should rephrase, he does sing melodically, but he doesn't have a typical kind of polished and smooth voice. So I'm just curious about, like, how general audiences, maybe you heard this for the first time in the car one day, how did you feel about it? Because, once again, I think that he adds such a unique dimension to the music because of his not the stereotypical kind of lead man or singer, with the way that he does approach the music in there and everything. But I've heard this track. It's really fun to listen to. That I'm doing it way off key, half because I can't do it, half because my throat's just hurting right now. And then, of course, when they get into the, like when he starts singing higher, ooh, that really hurt. Okay. Home is where I want to be. Pick me up and turn me around. I feel numb, born with a weak heart. I guess I must be having fun. The less we say about it, the better. We'll make it up as we go along. Feet on the ground, head in the sky. It's okay. I know nothing's wrong. Nothing. Hi, I got plenty of time. Hi, yeah, you got light in your eyes. And you're standing here beside me. I love the passing of time. Never for money, always for love. Cover up and say goodnight. Say goodnight. So he's in this relationship with someone, and he doesn't mind time passing because he's with this person, as he says there. Home is where I want to be, but I guess I'm already there. Interesting that he questions himself. I come home, she lifted up her wings. I guess that this must be the place. Like, he can't even tell if this is the right place. So maybe he's questioning his relationship. I can't tell one from another. Did I find you or you find me? There was a time before we were born. If someone asked, this is where I'll be, where I'll be. I think he's questioning the relationship. He's like, I think this is the place. I think this is the place I'm supposed to be and who I'm supposed to be with, but is it? Maybe it's not really his house or his car. Yeah, we drift in and out, singing to my mouth. Out of all those kinds of people, you got a face with a view. I'm just an animal looking for a home and share the same space for a minute or two. So maybe he's not really in an established relationship. Maybe they think he is, but he's just kind of passing on by, passing on through. Rolling Stone. And you love me till my heart stops, love me till I'm dead. Eyes that light up, eyes look through you, cover up the blank spots, hit me on the head. I go, ooh. It says, this is described by Byrne as the most direct love lyrics that he's ever written. The islandy vibe of this song is the soundtrack for when everything in your life is just peachy. And of course, it's one of their most, as it's described, luminous love songs rock has ever produced. That is really nice. That's a great way to end the album because I know it. This album was really strong to listen to, obviously with their incredible, what's the word? There's a word I want to use, but I can't remember what it was. With their incredible notes and perception towards groove and rhythm that we have heard with Remain in Light. I do like how this one took a more synthy direction, but still played with different genres like we heard with their, in my opinion, they're kind of bluesy, southern rocky, folky, country, and then kind of the reggae a little bit, the last track. Like, they played around with that groove while still maintaining that specific facet of their album. Just looking at some information on this one, it says that this is the group's highest charting album on the US Billboard 200, peaking at number 15. I guess the tour was documented in their film, Stop Making Sense, which we watched one track from that particular performance there, which was really, really fun to listen to. And then it has a lot of legacy. It has a lot of influence. It's been covered by a lot of people. I see Bonnie Raitt, never heard of them, but I recognize that name. John Legend's even apparently covered something from this album. Arcade Fire, a bunch of bands that I've heard of, but I not really listened to. And I guess Burning Down the House was also used as a sample by Kanye West. Hey, everyone's hopping on this one. Anyways, fantastic album. My favorite song, you ask? I really like Burning Down the House and I Get Wild. I think those would be my two favorite tracks. I do enjoy This Must Be the Place. I've heard it, so maybe I'm a little clouded. I would say Burning Down the House, though, and I Get Wild would definitely be my favorite tracks on this album. Yeah, let's leave it at that. Anyways, if you've arrived at this point, I can't thank you enough for spending some time with me, for hanging out. Listen to some tunes, jamming out to some music with me. I appreciate you. I hope that you enjoyed staying here with me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Of course, you can press the like button. You can subscribe if you haven't. You can follow me on Twitter. Oh, my throat. You can support the channel on Patreon. If you're asking, JP, why did you record when your throat was hurting? Because I want to listen to music and, you know, I'm not like dying. I just want to chill. You know, this is like a good relaxation time. So anyways, thank you for being here with me. Thank you for accompanying me on the journey. And of course, for recommending the album to me and for me to listen to it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Come on back tomorrow. You never know what we're doing. Sometimes I don't even know what we're doing, but we're doing it. That's what matters. Have a wonderful rest of your day, guys. I will talk to you all later. Bye.